The year 2017. The year of a whole bunch of sequels and remakes and. Uh, well, I mean, there are a couple of original movies coming out. I think Slight might turn out to be a really good movie. I'll go check that out. Okay. There are some original movies that are indeed coming out this year, but it's really hard to ignore all of the remakes, the sequels, and all of the reboots that are coming out. And hell, even some of the new original movies still look derivative from movies of the past. Look at Life, for example. Life just looks like a remake of Alien, or if not a remake or an outright remake, certainly is derivative of it. I mean, instead of Alien having a giant black penis monster that's killing everyone, it just looks like Life has a giant white vagina monster that's killing everyone. Actually, now that I think about it, isn't there like an Alien sequel, prequel coming out too? No. So Beauty and the Beast is coming out pretty soon, and I won't lie, I hate it. I actually hate almost all of the live action Disney remakes for a couple of reasons. I'll be fair. I mean, I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast yet, and it might be an excellent film. It might be great, but I don't like it. I hate it. I'm gonna say it right now. I really am not a fan of Disney remakes. I will be fair though. I really did like Jungle Book. I loved the live action Jungle Book movie. I thought it was great. I thought it really did build upon the elements of the first or the original. However, still, I just can't help but feel that it was, how do I put this? Oh, a colossal waste of time. I mean, instead of remaking a movie that everyone's already seen and just make it live action, why don't you just take the budget and make a completely new, different, and more original film with different characters? Like, why not take it and make like a Ricky Tikki Tavi animated feature? I mean, imagine if Disney did that. That would be interesting. That would be different. I mean, even if Disney decided to just do something, I don't know, maybe even make Little Red Riding Hood or something like that, their own spin on that, I think that would have been a much more justified usage of time and money than to remake films that we've already seen. I'm just of the mind that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to constantly remake films that we already know the ending to. I mean, isn't that one of the best things about films and storytelling? The fact that we get to go through a journey and go through the story and figure out how it ends. But if we already know how the story's going to take place and end, what's spectacular about it? What's interesting about it? I already know how Beauty and the Beast is going to end, so why would I need to watch it all over again? I mean, it's live action, but I mean, how does that enhance the film in any particular way? I would imagine that it does the complete opposite, which I'll get into in just a second. Now, while Beauty and the Beast might be the main movie that I will be criticizing today, or maybe be building upon most of my thesis and thoughts on, I by no means have no criticisms of all the other live action Disney movies. Cinderella was god awful. It was the same shit from the first animated feature that it was just a waste of time. There's no real way around it. I mean, it didn't do anything interesting or spectacular. It was just Cinderella live action, as if no one has ever done that before, ever. I mean, even the Cinderella movie with like Brandy was at least some more interesting than this one. And no, it's not because she was a black woman. Anyway, then I have my criticisms for Maleficent, and I could go into an entire video talking about how I despise that film. But I do think I will be talking about elements of the film when discussing why I really do not like remakes, or at least Disney remakes. I mean, I will pause the video to say that remakes can be justifiable. I can understand why Disney would want to remake, say, Snow White. Snow White was Disney's first ever animated feature, and it would make total sense that they want to update that and do something different. However, with movies like Beauty and the Beast, I really don't see any justifiable reason to try to remake that. And now there are some talks about how they're going to remake Mulan, and I just despair for creativity in Hollywood. The reason why I say it would make sense to try to remake a Snow White, maybe even animated or live action, is again because I think you might be able to actually do something interesting with it. The original Snow White was bad. Not bad animation wise, I mean for the time it was great, but there was really no real story above just kind of Snow White slice of life. It's kind of what it could be called. So I can understand why you would want to remake that and try to do something different. But Beauty and the Beast, animation-wise and story-wise, is perfectly fine. I mean, the movie was only created probably about 20 years ago, and even to this day, the animation still looks a lot better than some of the stuff that's coming out. Well, at least the remastered version does. So, I mean, if the movie stands up in terms of story, and the movie stands up in terms of animation, why would you need to take that and just recreate it? Okay, sure, I'm pretty sure the obvious answer to that question would be money, but I guess maybe I was hoping for something more. So I will say that once again, I have not seen Beauty and the Beast, or the remake at least. So it could be an excellent film. It could be great, but it will not change my overall thoughts on Disney remakes. I absolutely love the remake of Jungle Book, and my opinion on Disney remakes remain the same. So that being said, I will finally discuss why I detest these movies. Reason number one, I already know the plot. Now, I will pause to say this. Jungle Book and Maleficent are Disney remakes. This is true. However, they do have slightly different deviations in their plot. Jungle Book was good, Maleficent was god awful. And again, I could go into an entire video essay as to why it was god awful, but I won't. So, I can get why Jungle Book certainly had a lot more thematic and dramatic elements into it, certainly between the antagonist and the main character. Mowgli. And I do think that the film built upon that very well and created dramatic tension fantastically. Maleficent, not so much. That being said, however, with Cinderella, and I would imagine with Beauty and the Beast, I don't really see how you could deviate from Beauty and the Beast all too much. It seems that the plot is going to be, well, exactly the same. And since the plot is going to be exactly the same, I already know what's going to happen before it even happens. Which begs the ultimate question: why do I want to watch a film if I already know its conclusion? I mean, I can understand watching a movie for the novelty. I can understand rewatching a Disney movie. I mean, because of the nostalgia. But to rewatch a remake solely banking on the nostalgia that I have complete access to just seems really silly to me. Why would I spend $10 to go watch a movie that I've already know is going to end when I can spend no money on a movie that I already have and can just rewatch that? If Disney's just trying to bank off on people's nostalgia, then wouldn't people just, I don't know, have easy access to the movies already in their movie collection? Or at least you would imagine they can. And you can, even if you don't have the DVD, you can just always go online and pirate it. Okay, that's illegal, but I mean, you can still do it. Now, there are some plot details that are different in Beauty and the Beast that I will get into in a second. And I know they're different from different actor interviews and whatnot. So there are some changes from the original. I will give it that. However, the skeleton of Beauty and the Beast is going to be the same. A beautiful woman gets trapped in a dungeon with a goat monster thing. What even is that? What is it? Chimera? Whatever. A beautiful woman gets trapped in a dungeon and she has to fall in love with a creature. The end. And her true love breaks him free of his curse. And there are talking furniture and silverware. Okay, I got that. And since the live action movie is going to be, well, just that, a beautiful woman has to fall in love with the creature, and she's accompanied by talking silverware and furniture, it's just the same movie, just in live action. Whoop-de-doo. Another problem that I have with the live action Disney remakes is, well, just that, the live action. I honestly feel that live action takes a huge chunk away from the fantasy element that a lot of different fantasy movies can have. I mean, not all the time. It's not exactly a written rule. However, I do think that there's a lot more that you can do in animation than you can do in live action. There's a lot of different elements and subtext that you can convey with character designs that you can't really do with just simple costumes that you find that different actual actors are wearing. I mean, it's true that the actor's portrayal itself is what conveys the subtext, but the actual art style that comes from animation can do the very same thing and can enhance the experience when you pick out different Easter eggs that are actually put into the design of different characters. Different character designs can show different elements of their personality, which is shown a lot in different anime, and is something that I think is really enhances the critical or analysis part of animation. And while it's true that you can still have all of those different elements in live action movies and in the costumes that the actors wear, I still just think that they're a lot stronger when it comes to animation, which is admittedly more of a personal taste. But one thing that I will say and forever believe to be one of the most silliest things about live action remakes is the fact that they always try to incorporate CGI, which is really silly to me because it clashes with the live action that the movie is trying to go with. And of course, there are a lot of movies have CGI, and if you watch lots of movies, you'll usually begin to start seeing through the CGI, and it just kind of looks clunky sometimes. So to a normal moviegoer, you probably won't be able to pick out the green screen, or most special effects probably won't stick out to you. However, with animation, you find that a lot of the characters blend into the scenes naturally. They don't look clunky or out of place, which again, I guess is just more of a thematic theme that I like a lot more, that I think looks better all around. But there's another thing that really bothers me about live action movies, and that's the fact that, well, the physics. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do in a animation, such as slapstick comedy. I mean, take for example this scene when Gaston is messing around and punching LeFou in his track number.
Gosh, it disturbs me to see you, Gaston, looking so down in the dumps. Every guy here'd love to be
rest
you,
is all the rips.
Like Gaston dances like Gaston.
A wrestling match, nobody fights like Gaston.
In the live action version, or from the few clips I could find, you just find a bunch of guys kind of singing and dancing on the table. But in the animation, I mean, the subtle slapstick actually shows both literally and figuratively, the relationship between Gaston and LeFou. It shows that Gaston is quick to anger, very impatient, and is quick to slap the hell out of LeFou. And despite the fact that this is the person that LeFou is following around, he just takes it in strides and keeps on going. It doesn't matter the flaws that Gaston has, LeFou's gonna look over them. I mean, these elements are shown not only just in the animation, but I mean, it's kind of sung in the song as well. And that's something that you can get with, again, the animation forum. You can have characters get slapped upside the head, or you can have characters jump over other people and flip around the room, and it wouldn't be a clash of information, because that's what you expect from cartoons. But you can't really convey that type of subtlety, or even literally, in a live action film. I mean, having Gaston knock the hell out of LeFou in the middle of a tavern would look like a bar fight. It really wouldn't look like slapstick. I mean, sure, you could have it, but, I mean, if you saw someone get punched in the face and they just kind of walk away from it, you'd start thinking that they're a superhero, and you'd have to suspend your disbelief a little more. And yes, I do realize, I have enough self-awareness to realize, talking about suspension of disbelief in a film where there's a bunch of talking silverware and a giant beast goat thingy is a little kind of unwarranted and silly, but I digress. Later in the same exact song, you can see Gaston is stomping about, which conveys his larger-than-life personality. That's not really something that you could convey in a live-action film. At least not without it looking ridiculously out of place and a little clunky. The different things that you can do in animation, such as bombastic battles and fights and different type of musical numbers, all get lost when you try to translate that into live action. Because then you have to create a whole bunch of CGI in order to create or recreate the effect that the animation had. And if you're just going to have to animate some CGI and incorporate it into live action, it then just begs the question, why the fuck don't you just watch the animated feature where everything looks all natural instead of watching live action where it looks all clunky and strange and weird? The sky seems to be the limit when it comes to designing and animating characters. Take a look at how Gaston is designed in the original Beauty and the Beast versus how Gaston is in the live action. I mean, the original Beauty and the Beast, you can see he's got this gigantic chest, these huge giant biceps. I mean, it reflects his outer appearance as some mythical, beautiful hero. I mean, the interesting thing about Gaston's character design is he looks like he's the stereotypical hero in any fantasy novel or any fantasy animation. And the thing that's interesting about him is that he is a foil to the Beast, where his outward appearance is that of something that looks great and beautiful and strong, but on the inside he's actually pretty nefarious, cunning, and evil. Well, maybe not cunning, but evil nonetheless. While Beast, on the other hand, looks like a giant monster beast man bear thingy, but on the inside he's actually quite the intellectual and does have some complex thoughts about things. Well, sometimes. What's interesting about animation is the fact that you can convey these subtle details with the appearance of different characters by highlighting and exaggerating different features in order to portray that these are the type of themes that you want to show. Again, Gaston looks like the hero of the film. I mean, he looks like he could be Hercules' cousin or brother, and that is exactly the point of his design. The Beast, on the other hand, looks like he is the main antagonist, and that's the subversion that happens, or that's the subversion that the point of Beauty and the Beast is trying to convey. However, if you look at Gaston's appearance in the live-action film, the guy looks like he's a villain. He looks nefarious. He looks like he's some mustache-twirling bad guy. I mean, just look at this guy. He doesn't look like the big, strong, mythical hero that Gaston is supposed to be a parody of. He looks like, well, he looks like, okay, he looks like a faggot, okay? There's no really other way to put it. And oh, no worry, I'll be talking about faggots later in this video, so just stay tuned. Let's take Maleficent, for example. Maleficent had a pet raven named Diablo. No, not that Diablo. That Diablo, yes. In the original Sleeping Beauty, Diablo couldn't speak, so Diablo had to emote all of his emotions through his eyes, his mannerisms, and even in his quawing. However, in the live-action movie Maleficent, Maleficent had to take a raven and then turn it into a person in order to speak with it. Now, from a storytelling point of view, I understand exactly why this is a thing. I know why it happens from a writing point of view, why Maleficent had to do that. However, I mean, in terms of spectacle, I mean, how exactly does this make the film better? Wouldn't it have just been a lot easier to just have the Raven emote himself? Well, in a live action movie, no, it would not have been easier to do that, which is why they need to turn him into a human in order for him to communicate with Maleficent. And this is exactly what I mean when I say that live action is like a step back from animation. In terms of the fantasy element, you can accept that a raven is somewhat sentient and can communicate with someone. In a live action film, it would look clunky and weird. That's why you had to transform him into a human. And then it just begs the ultimate question. How exactly does this enhance the film? While it's true that the overarching story, or more or less the skeleton of the narrative, usually remains unchanged in a lot of remakes, sometimes remakes try to change specific plot details or nuances in the plot or characters to make them more modernized. Now, sometimes changing these plot elements can make a lot of sense, and sometimes these plot elements can indeed enhance the narrative or change up the narrative enough to make it a little more interesting. For example, having Shere Khan get burned by Mowgli's dad. Other times, changing these small plot details kind of breaks the internal narrative of the entire story and just kind of makes it, well, make no sense, to put it bluntly. Let's look at Maleficent for a second. Now, in the Maleficent remake, Maleficent curses Aurora to, well, not die, because if she cursed the small baby to die, that would make her look evil, and you can't have that. But instead curses the child to fall asleep. But then something strange begins to happen. Maleficent starts taking care of the very girl she cursed.
What the fuck?
There's even a point where Maleficent and Aurora sit in the forest and have a normal, natural conversation, as if Maleficent is not the entire cause of all of this girl's future anguish.
What the fuck?
And even at the end of the film, it's Maleficent's kiss that wakes up Aurora from the very curse that she caused.
What the fuck?
There's another example in the upcoming Beauty and the Beast film. And again, I will preface this by saying I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know. But I heard from an interview that Emma Watson herself decided to try to make some changes to Belle's backstory. So instead of just having Belle be some bookworm that just likes reading, now Belle is in creator. She's an engineer. Instead of her dad, crazy old Maurice, being the one that's an engineer that creates a whole bunch of kooky inventions, it's now Belle that does that. And Maurice is just some kind of meek old guy that just kind of wanders around. Now, at first, this doesn't really sound too extravagant. It kind of sounds, maybe interesting, maybe a bit silly. But when you really think about it, you realize that change in the plot kind of breaks the entire narrative of Beauty and the Beast. So much so that now it really is confusing as to how this story could play out. What do I mean by that? Crazy old Maurice left the village, or town, to go to a science fair convention. That's where he got lost and fell off the road and ended up in the Beast Castle, where Belle had to go find him and then trade places with him. And that is quite literally one of the most important plot elements, if not the most important plot element, in the entire movie. If you remove crazy old Maurice from being, crazy old Maurice, that also removes the stigma that Belle had. I mean, the villagers kind of just thought Belle was a little weird, but the real reason why people didn't really want to associate with Belle, or even thought she was weird, was because of crazy old Maurice. Once again, when you remove that plot element, it makes it really confusing as to why anyone would have any problem with Belle, or why anyone would have any problem with Maurice if it's just some kind of meek old guy. So again, I have not seen the film yet. Maybe this will play out in a completely natural and organic way as to why there's some stigma around Belle. I don't know, and I admit that I don't know. But I am really worried that we're gonna have to deal with another empowered woman that don't need no man. I made a video about strong, empowered female characters a little while back ago, and one of my biggest issues with them is the fact that everyone around the woman always seems to be, well, kind of stupid. Which, in order to make her seem a lot smarter than what she actually is. And this is actually another huge issue that I have with Maleficent that I'll probably talk about later. I should probably really make a video as to why I hate Maleficent, because I really don't like that movie. And that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to this particular Disney remake. So, I heard a little while back ago when I watched Jeremy John's review of Beauty and the Beast that LeFou, this short guy, is now a homosexual. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way for a number of reasons. I will preface this by saying, not because I really have an issue with homosexuals in movies, they really don't bother me all too much, but what really bothers me is the fact that you took a character that I didn't really think was even a homosexual, and you made him gay for what I imagine to be next to no goddamn reason. Now, in Jeremy John's review, he said that he always just imagined that LeFou was gay, that he always imagined he was a homosexual. But I just think that that's some old bullshit. I don't really see how you could come to the conclusion that LeFou in the original film was gay. Like, at all. Because originally I just always thought LeFou was just some kind of sycophant. I always thought that LeFou was actually Gaston's longtime friend, maybe some guy from childhood that grew up with Gaston. However, when Gaston became all big and large and strong and a great hunter, LeFou stayed all short and stocky. And so, instead of ever trying to be resentful or hateful towards Gaston's new appearance, LeFou decided the best thing to do was become sycophantic and follow him around. Instead of being Gaston, he figured that he'll just be close to him and just, try to support him in everything he does. Kind of struck me as someone that truly and genuinely wanted his friend to do well, not some guy that wanted to fuck him, or some guy that wanted to be fucked by him. If you add the plot detail that LeFou is now gay, you realize that you are indeed adding the subtext that LeFou wants to either have sex with Gaston or be, be the bottom. I imagine he wants to be the bottom. I don't really think he strikes me as the top. But then the second thing that really worries me is if the entire point of adding this gay subtext into this film was to make it so that children would be more easily accepting of homosexuals and would be easily and readily available to accept homosexuality in films and portrayed in films, then wouldn't that be the literal fucking definition of propaganda? I don't know if this is what's going to happen with LeFou. However, considering that I find no other reason as to why you take a character that was never established to be gay and make him gay, I don't really see any other reason why, and that worries me. I mean, to be fair, I might just be blowing out hot air, and I will accept that I am blowing out hot air when I actually see the film. However, considering that there's no real other reason as to make LeFou gay other than, to make it seem like it's okay or a more acceptable thing to do, as if we needed a children's film to tell us that, I just worry that this is, again, literal, actual propaganda. I guess the last thing that really bothers me is the whole idea of representation in films that a lot of social justice warriors and feminists talk about a lot. I mean, I guess I'm actually going to have to speak on behalf of gay people at this point. I mean, as a gay person, would you really want any level of representation to be a short, stocky, fat man that falls around a bigger, stronger, more masculine man with secret hopes that he'll eventually get to have sex with him? Is that really what you want to be represented as? I mean, really? Really? Yeah, I don't know. So, in conclusion, I really don't like Disney remakes. I mean, to be fair, Jungle Book was great, and Beauty and the Beast could be fantastic. However, considering the fact that most remakes just kind of retread the same story that we've already seen before, and considering the fact that they're in live action, which means you severely limit the different things that you can do in terms of animation and even storytelling with subtle details, and considering that some of these remakes try to be modernized and try to update the story and just ends up breaking the entire narrative altogether, I just cannot say with certainty that any Disney remake that comes out in the near future will be, well, worth watching. At least in my humble opinion. But look, I'm just some nigga on the internet. I mean, if you like Disney remakes, don't let this video deter that or take that away from you. I mean, if you like them, you like them. like I said repeatedly, I really did enjoy Jungle Book. I really thought that was a great movie. However, I still think it would have been a lot better if they took that budget and made, I don't know, Ricky Tikki Tavi or Little Red Riding Hood. That might have been cool. I don't know. I think there's just a lot more. I think there's just so many other ideas that could have been created other than remaking an idea consistently all the time, over and over again. And we're getting Mulan pretty soon, and so let's just hope that that isn't complete and utter garbage. Well, we can hope.